what I would expect if I go back 4 years, I'd expect most people to not have any idea what I'm saying right now. Okay? Them to be acting from their own view of inside the control system, thinking Bitcoin was going up in value. In other words, taking more risk of their Bitcoin, cheering for it to go up in value, cheering for the government to co-opt Bitcoin, to regulate it, to co-opt it, cheering for that to happen. And as they were cheering it more and more inside that, if Bitcoin was just open, at some point Bitcoin would be centralized and fail. But if you know that, and that's the thing, if just one idea can spread to another person and another person and another person, if you know that, and you know that that risk is coming, and you know most people will fall willingly into that trap, what would you build?
Bitcoin is under serious attack. And if history teaches us anything, it's that when a system feels truly threatened, it doesn't argue honestly. It distorts reality, rewrites narratives, and programs belief. Jeff Booth has spent years explaining how entire generations were conditioned, not just about money, but about food, health, technology, and authority itself, all beginning with a broken monetary system. From the moment the world abandoned sound money, truth itself became negotiable. What followed was not accidental misinformation, but structured indoctrination designed to keep a fragile system standing just a little longer. And if history teaches us anything, it's that when a system feels truly threatened, it doesn't argue honestly, it distorts reality, rewrites narratives, and programs belief. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
I have agency in the world I live in. It's a mirror. And from that view, I can lead and I can touch other people who then also determine if they have agency or not. If you've heard me say probably on your podcast before too, there is no they, only we. We are all connected. We're all completely connected. So if we believe there is a they and those people, then it is true for us, and we remove our ability to contribute, to make a difference. And so that agency, it's a way bigger deal than it seems like at first blush. Name a threat model to Bitcoin that doesn't go through what I just said. So when somebody says quantum, what are they saying? Those people. When somebody says, what's the government going to do? Those people. When they say, what's China going to do? Those people. Right? All of these things come down to those imaginary people that are more capable than you. And every single one of them, because you haven't done the work to understand how you matter and you contribute to the world that you see. And when you do that work and you're actually inside that work and actually influencing the world you want to see, it starts to appear and you start to see other people doing that as well. And the world looks totally different. So Bitcoin on the first layer doesn't. It's an open monetary protocol, and it gains its decentralization and security by having an open monetary protocol. You can't change that at the first layer. At the second layer, and everything's KYC. If you only had the first layer, Bitcoin would fail. Not it might fail, it would fail. Because in time, we would be co-opted. When I said agency, the one thing I neglected to say is, as we're blaming them, those other people, we're inside a system that we know is based on a lie, yelling at other people, contributing in the money that's stealing from us. And we think there's somebody else to blame but us. We wouldn't allow that financial system to collapse on its ground. We wouldn't vote for somebody who told us that the truth. So it's not saying anything about them. It's saying something about us. So, and those things are hard to take, right? As you're going through the rabbit hole and you're realizing it's no one else, it's me, right? It's not. How could I blame somebody else when I was making the same choice until I saw it in me, and then just made a different choice? So if you can change, I'm speaking to you, Cedric, I'm speaking to me, if I can change and show up differently, then shouldn't everybody be able to change? Right? And so people are stuck in this other system, and they don't realize the sum of their choices are all inside a zero-sum game, and they're not outrunning it. And so they can make the choice.
And so, do you think we have enough privacy now, or we're
So 4 years ago, if you look at FETI and the Fedimint protocol, 4 years ago when we invested in that, it was looking to the future and realizing if you didn't have privacy, then Bitcoin would be co-opted. And how would it be co-opted? First, rogue governments would put people in jail, right? Just what ends up happening. They would murder people. They would do whatever it took to send a message on privacy, that it's dangerous to have privacy. And you would expect from a central control system that we all have always lived in, that was not the free market, but got its power from theft in a centralized control system, and we didn't know we were in it. You would expect it to constrain the ideas of the people within it so that they believed a certain narrow thing. And if you had AI that you could constrain it more, you would expect them to be inside this information bubble and not know they were inside this information bubble. And if somebody stepped out and was dangerous because other people could step out, you would expect that system to attack the people that stepped out to provide value or provide different value. We've always lived in a kind of a narrow box of a belief system, and the genius over here, the crazy and the genius, always pushed us to new areas. That was the free market, that if they were right, we moved. So if you were in this little box inside this control system and the box was tightening narrower, 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 and you were in it, would you know you were in it? You would have to have privacy, right? Because privacy would be a threat to that. And if Bitcoin wasn't private and it was a threat to money, you would expect for sure that that would attack Bitcoin in time. You'd expect, what I would expect if I go back 4 years, I'd expect most people to not have any idea what I'm saying right now, right? Them to be acting from their own view of inside the control system, thinking Bitcoin was going up in value. In other words, taking more risk of their Bitcoin, cheering for it to go up in value, cheering for the government to co-opt Bitcoin, to regulate it, to co-opt it, cheering for that to happen. And as they were cheering more and more inside that, if Bitcoin was just open, at some point Bitcoin would be centralized and fail. But if you know that, and that's the thing, if just one idea can spread to another person and another person and another person, if you know that, and you know that risk is coming, and you know most people will fall willingly into that trap, what would you build? You would build pieces of protocol that provided freedom, true freedom and abundance, that were built on top of Bitcoin, or you would invest in those companies and people building that. And so this already exists. This exists in Fedimint, this exists in Cashew, this exists in a bunch of different other privacy tech. It exists, and it will continue to exist, and it will continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger as more people realize they need it in a system that's farming them and aware of every transaction, every communication that they're doing. And they thought they were living in a system where free speech was important, and they're more and more living in a system where it's punished. And you can see this from where money is most broken, is do people have free speech? So why would you expect, if your money is not as broken as their money, but on trending towards being as broken, why would you expect to have it? But the simple answer is, in the worst places in the world, and there's some of the worst places in the world, even where money is completely broken, you have a dictator, and such, the free market still works. When they say, here's the rate, here's the exchange rate, the government exchange rate, there's always a dark market rate, the real market rate of the free market transacting, which is so if that exists in all of those places in the world, then the same thing exists here. Like the problem and the growing problem creates the opportunity for entrepreneurs to solve the problem. even though most people don't see it. And as the entrepreneurs solve the problem and create value for society, as people see it and move to solve their problem, the companies do really well.
The moment people outsource responsibility, they surrender agency. Bitcoin doesn't fail because of quantum computers or regulation. It fails only if its users abandon understanding, privacy, and participation. That's why Jeff emphasizes second-layer solutions, privacy protocols, and decentralized innovation, not as optional upgrades, but as inevitable responses to pressure. And this pressure, he argues, is only going to intensify, because broken systems always tighten control before they collapse.
We've never lived in a free market. Right? That system had to divide us, had to manipulate money or change the rules of money. So the gold system failed, right? Because it got centralized and you couldn't inflate it out. So we just changed the rules of it. Then drove into the petrodollar system. We just created new winners and losers to be able to anchor our money to oil, right? And a different energy-backed money, right? And that required a whole belief system that some people were enemies and some people were the good guys, which we created, which was still a zero-sum game, which is breaking down today because money's still broken, always been broken, and people are going to believe in a different belief system because they're living from within the system that money's always been broken, but they don't know it. So a lot of those things, if you just think about the food pyramid, invention of the food pyramid, or the inversion of the food pyramid, when I was born in '69, right? It happened just after, and my growing up, I thought the cereals were the healthiest thing for you. All the things you didn't want to eat eggs, you didn't want to. They were bad for you because we were programmed to believe that. Why were we programmed to believe that? Because you had to stop food inflation in a time you were going off the gold reserve to keep people placated. And so when you see some of the implications of that on health and well-being and everything else played way forward, and it forces you to ask, what else was I led to believe from big food or big tech or big pharma or this out of a control system, or big education, right? Because the studies that reinforce that, when you look down to those studies, you can clearly see that they were paid for.
So how has maybe moving to Nostr changed you?
Nostr is still early, right? And I don't see it as a clone of Twitter. I'm on it because as it becomes a protocol layer, one of the layers of identity and communications, it becomes so much more than Twitter. It becomes so much. There's other things you can do with identity, and you can preserve your identity into, it doesn't have to be Cedric. You could do it in a NIM and you could still have communication with it, and it's you, right? And you could build a web of trust out of that, out of people who constantly do the right thing versus people who don't, and you could find out who do you like, who do they follow, and you could start build a web of trust where you can't do that in a centralized fashion. You have to rely on the algorithm. You have to rely on what they want to show you and why they want to show it to you. And how could you have freedom in expression if embedded in freedom and expression that you have different rules in different regions based on what the government says? That can't exist. So you start to see. Now, I'm not saying if you like Twitter, stay on Twitter and everything. This is just like if you like Fiat, stay in Fiat. It's not my job to tell somebody what they need to do. I'm just saying for my own decision. And it happened through the first time through, and Larry Lepard has had this happen how many times now? And a SIM attack, right? A phone attack that attacked my Twitter, attacked a bunch of other things that had to come from the highest levels of the phone company because of our security against that. The only way it could have happened is through that. And understanding how I was exposed there and what that looked like, and and a lowering and lowering of why am I spending time? Am I gaining value or am I contributing value to society here? And I had how much time? What does it mean for my life? My life better or neutral out of the things I'm doing here? It's easy to tell you to yourself all of the things I'm doing I need to do, but really questioning that led me to I don't need to do it at all, right? I just don't need to do this, and I wanted to contribute more of my time to the world that I want to see: the decentralized, secure, the honest, where people create value and it has to be expressed in a free market. I just wanted to contribute, and I didn't mind losing 375,000 followers to be able to do that, right? It was my choice, right? Because at the time, I remember somebody on Nostr, we'll see, he'll go back, right? And I didn't go back because because of that, but it's just, I just made a choice, not that everybody else has to, that I wanted to spend more time. And by doing so, I get to see all of the genius and the chaos and everything else emerging in the new system. So I get to spend more time and all of the people there. So that choice was a benefit, not in reach, but in value.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comment section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks, and enjoy the video.